It 2017. A handful of young teens deeming themselves the Losers Club may be the only thing standing in the way of a devilish shapeshifter with a penchant for clowns who has been feeding off fear and children in the town of Derry for hundreds of years.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Our Rating, the show where I get together with two of my friends. We take a movie franchise, break it down by movie, give it an overall score, and throw it on the board to see where it lands compared to the other movie franchises. As always, I am joined by Will and Brian. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm good, Dan. How are you doing?
I said it in the pregame show, but I have to say it again. I am so looking forward to this episode. Not even necessarily because of the movie. I just really need this time with you guys, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I am so ready for this week. Will, how are you doing?
I'm a touch under the weather, so I might not rant and rave as I often do.
Perfect.
Who are we kidding? I probably will, but I might be a little quieter. We'll see.
It's throwing me off a little bit. I'm wearing a hat and Will is not. I think this has never happened yet on the show. So over a year in for this to get there, but here we are. So we're talking this week about 2017's It Chapter 1. This is the Stephen King novel brought to life. Have either of you read the novel before?
Negative.
No, okay, so I'm the only one, and it's been quite a few years at this point. I'm not going to pretend that I remember a ton of it, but it definitely is going to seep into my discussion about this one. Have either of you seen this movie before?
Yes.
I did see this when it came out in theaters, I believe.
And what about part 2? Which will be
Yes.
2 weeks from now.
I did indeed see the second in theaters as well.
So I would like to comment on this. Now,
Okay.
When it comes to scary movies, a lot of the thrill of a scary movie is seeing it for the first time. The jump scares, they get you, and it makes it that much more exciting. So this is the second time I've seen this movie, possibly the third time. I can't remember. So I was taking a more analytical approach because I thought to myself, okay, you're not going to get scared over this, so you can't really judge it by that. You can just remember how you felt the first time you saw it, and then analyze the film this time around because it's just not going to be that scary. I was wrong. There were still things. Props to this movie. It was able to bring it round 2, and so that was kind of exciting. That doesn't normally happen for me, but I was very glad it did. I still got to analyze the film, but I was pleasantly surprised that this still had not as much, but it still had a little bit of power that it actually got to me a bit.
Very nice. I like to hear that. Now, we obviously just got done doing 4 different Conjuring movies before we got here. It's interesting that you brought up fear. One of the things I was going to talk about later, but it feels like it's appropriate to just go into it right now. I didn't necessarily find this movie scary per se. Now, admittedly, I did watch it in the middle of the day. I didn't watch it at night. Still a dark room, but maybe that had some sort of an impact on it. As much as it was more disturbing. Like, it was just in the Conjuring franchise, in a lot of horror movies, they rely on jump scares. In this movie, most of the scares you see coming. Like,
Yeah.
In something like Jaws, you have the fear of the shark, which you don't see for 45 minutes or an hour. I don't know exactly. It's been a long time since I've seen Jaws. But the whole point is you are building up how scary the shark is long before you ever see it. In The Conjuring, you don't see a ghost for quite some time. There's just like a creaking in the next room or like a bang or a door that was left open. It's leaving a lot to the imagination. The first scene in this movie, you are introduced to Pennywise. They bring him out front and center. They're not afraid to do that because you're not really afraid of Pennywise. I mean, in that sense, it's not a jump scare side of movie. It is more just a gosh, I've lost the word that I wanted to use. I had it all day long. I've completely lost it now. But it is more disturbing than it is. Like, the things they're talking about, the scenes with the adults, the way the adults interact with the kids, the fact that the clown moves in a very disjointed way. It's not surprising you. It's just off-putting.
Yeah,
exactly. I 100% agree. I feel like the humans, the adults in this movie specifically, are way scarier than anything Pennywise could ever do to me, because it's based in some sort of reality, and you have heard of these actual things happening. These things happen to people all the time, and so those things were terrifying compared to what Pennywise does. Pennywise is a trickster, devious clown thing, but obviously wants to, eat you and whatnot. But it's also having fun with its prey because it needs to feed off fear. Whereas the human element of this movie is way more brutal to me, and that's what got me in this movie, not the scares. The scares to me, I thought, were more predictable. It was more like, oh, okay, maybe it was a clever way or a fun way of executing it, but it had nothing on the actual real life circumstances these kids go through.
In fact, when Pennywise utilizes some of their human experiences to try and scare them toward the end of the film, they've kind of had it with that shit, and it angers the children and somewhat backfires on Pennywise. He tries to use Bill's little brother against him like the whole time. Bill's aggro angry at Pennywise and going after him, either trying to find his brother or end this terror. And that doesn't work for Pennywise. And then later at the very end, he uses Beverly's relationship with her father. She stabs him through the head with a post or something, like she goes after him too. Like she's like, no, I'm not going to be afraid of this anymore. I'm going to do something about that. And it shows these kids taking control of their fear, and it backfires on Pennywise. The times that were the scariest for me is when Pennywise scared someone in a way that was completely unrelated to the crap that they were dealing with in real life. For me, the scariest scene, the most off-putting and horrifying scene for me was when Beverly is entrapped by the hair with her face over the sink, and the blood just comes gushing up into her face for what felt like a solid 2 minutes. I'm sure it was probably about 7 seconds. But that was a very terrifying sequence. And then what ended up happening was that her real life father walks into the room and can't see it, can't help her, doesn't want to help her. And he's already a very scary individual too, because he's a pedophile or a pervert or whatever. And so that just compounds the fear of that moment. And in that moment really worked for me. But the ones where Pennywise is using, pretending to be those people that haunt them or whatever, it didn't work. I mean, it wasn't really meant to be scared. They're supposed to overcome their fear, and it backfired on Pennywise. So it's kind of a weird how they utilize those situations and those themes in throughout this film. I've got a question since you lost your thread there, Dan.
Sure.
How do we talk about this movie without talking about the TV series that aired prior to it with Tim Curry, right? Because when this movie starts out and Bill's little brother, I forget his name, Bobby or whatever. Georgie, thank you, Georgie. Georgie goes chasing his little boat down there, exactly like the previous, we'll call it the TV show because it was a TV show originally. Exactly like the TV show. And I remember watching this for the first time and thinking, oh man, they're just going to go exactly the same. And then Pennywise takes a chunk out of the kid's arm and he reaches down the street and grabs the kid and pulls him back into the drain. And I was like, oh my God, they did the same thing, but they did it in a crazy way that was way scarier for me. I really liked the way they went with that. There's definitely, I still like Tim Curry's version of Pennywise better, but this one was great also. So, I mean, there's things to talk about with that comparison there, because a lot of this material is very similar and yet also very different.
So, as you guys know, I grew up in a very religious household, so I didn't watch that TV show or the Tim Curry version of it until way later in life. I definitely watched it before seeing this movie, but not much before seeing this movie, I wouldn't think. Like, I was probably, I'm going to guess that I was in my late 20s, if not early 30s by the time I saw that. So while Tim Curry is phenomenal, I don't have the fear of him that a lot of people do if they watch that like really, really younger.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate the masterclass that he brought to it, but like I don't have the terror of clowns that a lot of people do. Probably vastly because of this book/movie.
I think Tim Curry is probably responsible for 70% of the people who have a fear of clowns. I really do.
Oh, for sure.
Like I'm not exaggerating. I really feel that's true.
I just realized I wanted to look something up.
Well, I'll take it from there then while you're looking that up. I think what Bill Skarsgård did was a really smart choice. He didn't research Tim Curry's It portrayal. He wanted to make it his own. He went more animalistic with his portrayal of it or Pennywise. And I think he did a really good job of making it his own, which allows him to stand out as his own Pennywise so that you don't have to compare them as much. Whereas if you like think of like the Joker, you always are comparing Heath Ledger to Jack Nicholson and those kind of things, right? Whereas this one, you can still compare it, but they are very different executions. And I like that. I like that Bill went that direction with it because it did make it feel fresh and new, a different take on this creature, this alien, whatever the hell it is. But that said, I mean, I prefer Tim Curry's as well. I think because of the more human element. He was this like clown, like that was a little bit off, a little bit like charming, but also really creepy at times. So it's like it gave a different vibe to me, a little like creepier vibe. Whereas this, it in 2017, Bill Skarsgård's it felt just more like a creature that needed to feast. He didn't feel as playful. There is times when he's playing for sure because he needs the fear, but it just seemed more like anytime he could open his mouth to gorge down on guys, that was the end goal, right? So it was very different.
Yeah, you knew Skarsgård was wrong. I mean, right in all the ways. I loved his performance. I agree. It's hard to compare the two. They are two completely different takes. I love both of them. I want both of them. I enjoyed both of them. Skarsgård was a clown that was wrong. Right from the jump, when Georgie's talking to him down in the sewer, you know this is a bad dude. Whereas Tim Curry, at times you're like, that clown's a little creepy. Like it wasn't on the nose. It was that subtle vibe. And rarely did he kind of lunge out with teeth and claws and get gruesome. And so that made it more off-putting. It was more of like an uncanny Clown Valley kind of thing there, whereas Skarsgård went just full terror. And I like both of them. I like both of them.
Now, you mentioned the opening scene with Georgie. I don't remember the Tim Curry one, so apologies for that. The one thing I didn't love about that scene, even though I think this movie, generally speaking, is incredibly well made, was the choice. Like Georgie gets his arm ripped off and is starting to crawl away, and then it grabs him and pulls him back in, or Pennywise grabs him and pulls him back in. And it's raining really hard there. There's a woman on a porch who's watching him, looks away for a second and looks back. I would have loved it a little bit more if the rain had washed away all of the blood at that point, so that he just disappears. Like nobody actually knows what happened exactly. He's just gone. And that would add to the mystery a little bit more than just like, oh, like there was a little boy there and now there's a gigantic blood stain there. I don't think we see her get so upset about it. We don't really see her reaction to it, but she definitely saw it.
Yeah. And that kind of screws up the whole Bill's always saying he's missing. He's not dead. He's missing. But if she saw that pool of blood, that lends to the, no, he's gone. He's gone. And so I agree with you. I think it would have been a better play to just do no blood. He's just out of there.
Yeah. We do see later on, you already mentioned it, the scene in the bathroom where there's blood everywhere and the little kids can see it and we can see it, but the adult couldn't. The father couldn't. Do you think there's any chance where the woman on the balcony couldn't see it? Or because it was Georgie's blood, it is a real thing, she should have been able to see it? Because again, I don't think we see her reaction.
I don't think we see a reaction. I think there's a couple of things at play here. Obviously, Pennywise kind of has the whole town, especially the adult side of the town, under control somewhat. And I feel like they hint at that being part of the reason why the adults are so creepy and off-putting and doing terrible things to kids. Like, is there any redeeming adults in this movie at all? I don't think so. And I think it's because Pennywise kind of has this control over the town as a whole, except for the children, because children have this imagination. Children can see the magic or whatever it is, or have their own magic still instilled in them. So they can like react to this Pennywise, which is one, good for Pennywise because he can draw fear out of them and feed off of that fear. And at the end of this movie, ultimately bad for Pennywise because they can group together and push Pennywise out, being like, we know it's all make-believe. get the F out of here. And so it's a really, they don't really explain any of that in this movie. So it's all really up to interpretation a little bit. Am I wrong in that interpretation? What are you guys' thoughts?
No, I think that's how it goes with not Spielberg, with Stephen King stories. We were talking about this in the pregame show, and if anybody ever wants to see that, you can come watch it on Twitch. We're talking about that, how Stephen King kind of has like a flow of an idea, and it doesn't have structure to it or rules, because he kind of just starts and he sees where it goes, and he never knows where his stories are going to end. And so we kind of have that fluid rule set here on this. I'm okay with it. It's creepy and they don't give me good structure. I normally like rules and we stick to the rules and play by them. Dan's kind of the same way, right, Dan? You kind of like a rule structure and you stick to it. This one is just, it's just, everything's creepy. And so you're just going to kind of go with it, because it doesn't, a lot of it doesn't make sense, and it is open to interpretation. And so I guess it's okay in this one. At least that's how I feel.
On top of that, Stephen King was drugged out of his mind.
Oh, hell's yeah. Stephen King in the 80s? Yeah.
It was 100%.
Now, the one thing I do want to touch on what you just asked is the control that Pennywise seems to have over the adults, even though it's not a direct control. One of the things I was wondering about while watching this movie, the only way that it kind of made sense to me, is Pennywise, does he have like a low-level hypnosis over the kids? Because like almost every kid did something where I'm like, there's no chance that kid is doing this right now. Like Ben in the library where he's studying, and there's a balloon floating by, and he follows it into the basement because of all the bloody Easter eggs after reading about the factory of Easter eggs blowing up or burning down or whatever. Like, just things like that felt so unrealistic, unless Pennywise does have like hypnotic powers over people and is like controlling them and like kind of luring them exactly where he wants them to be. Because as we mentioned, like, he does seem to be feeding on the fear more than on the flesh. So like, were you guys kind of getting that from this, or is this just like a horror movie trope? Like, the kid always runs upstairs away, and like, you know, silly things like that.
I feel like it's a little bit of both. At this point, it seems tropey because we've seen it so many times, but because of who Pennywise is, which is still like very unknown. I think he wrote like 6 books related to this universe of Pennywise creatures and what have you. But yeah, in relation to or whatever, right? But it's all very loose in this presentation of this movie specifically, and rightfully so. It's a 1,200-page novel broken down into 2 2-hour movies. Like, you can only put in so much. And so I think the writers, directors picked and selected a lot of good elements to put in here to make a, you know, kind of a clean through line for the story. But it does still leave a lot of questions just because there is so much.
I think there's opportunities for world building, and Welcome to Derry could build on that, explain things, give us some answers. I heard that Pennywise is actually an alien that crash landed before it was even like populated there. So
before humans, I think.
Before humans. Been there like 300,000 years or something, you know? And so I don't know. I'll be watching Welcome to Derry because I'm interested in this universe and the movies. I found them entertaining enough that I'd like to dive deeper and get some of these answers. So hopefully we will get those answers. But for me, watching this before I knew there was a TV series coming out, before I knew anything really about it, I just thought it was a trope. In the horror movies, they always run upstairs instead of out the front door, or into the woodshed with all the sharp tools instead of just get in the car and go. So that's all I ever thought it was.
So as I'm assuming the only Stephen King fan in the room, I've actually read quite a few of his books. And what you're talking about, Will, there's not so much multiple books on Pennywise or on it, but there is a Dark Tower franchise, which is, I think, 7 books long. And he brings in a lot of different characters from literature, including Pennywise. So a lot of his characters, Randall Flagg, Pennywise, there's
Pennywise was in the Dark Tower? I don't remember that.
Briefly, they mention like one of the characters walks past a circus, and the circus has Pennywise the dancing clown area set up in it. I don't believe that Pennywise himself makes an appearance, but it definitely references him.
Speaks on
and that's kind of like Stephen King's opus, is that franchise, and it kind of touches on a lot of different things. The book itself, you're mentioning how like they had to cut some parts of it. Thank goodness they did. There's a lot of stuff in this book that would be horrendous to put to screen. I mean, we hint at how awful her father is, but it gets real dark in the book.
Yeah.
And as far as Welcome to Derry goes, the issue that I had with the book, not that the book is bad per se, but 1,200 pages, it is long. A significant chunk of that book is just, this is what Derry was like in the 40s. This is what Derry was like in the 50s. This is what Derry was like in the 70s. And at some point, you're just like, okay,
we get it.
I no longer care. Like, there is world building, and then there is just like slog. And like at some point, I'm just like, can we go back to the kids, please? I'd really like to get back to the children. One of the things I wish they put a bit more of in, though, is the real threat, if you want to word it that way, of Eddie, which is the kind of sociopathic bully of the kids. In this movie, like, so I watched this movie and then I read the book. I don't remember if I watched the second part before or after. I couldn't tell you that. Okay. So I remember watching this and being like, oh, that guy's a threat. And then you read the book and it's like, he is everywhere. He is hunting them down. He is looking for them in not the quarry, whatever the marshy area is that they're in. Like, just a bunch of stuff is going on. And he seemed like a legitimate threat. And then this one, obviously, he's carving up Ben's stomach, which is disgusting. But that's kind of it. Like, that's kind of the only real time you see him. Like, the other time they throw rocks at him and
he's beat up Mike a little bit. Away. Yeah.
And then they just toss him into the well. And that's kind of the end of his character, which really surprised me at the time, because I was like, wait, there's a second movie. And I was like, oh, right. No, the second movie takes place 27 years later. We're not going to get any of them then. So it made sense to get rid of him, but it just felt like he wasn't a very impactful character compared to what I was expecting. Having not read the book, what did you guys think of Eddie?
I mean, personally, I thought Eddie was like a bully to the umpth degree. Like, I've never seen bullying that extreme, like cutting up somebody's belly to brand them with your name. Like, it seemed way, way, way too violent for me. And again, I kind of put that towards Pennywise kind of having this hold over, and he was like an older kid, so he had more hold over Eddie, which in the end, he makes Eddie, off his own father. So there is something to that. But overall, I just felt everything is just to the 10th degree extreme in Derry when Pennywise is around every 27 years. Maybe it's not like that when he's not there. I don't know. Maybe it is. Nobody seems to give a rat's ass about anything in this town. So it's like crazy to me. And it kind of takes away a little bit too, because you're like, okay, I care about the kids. The kids did great. And I thought the acting was good with the kids and their vibe was fun. But nobody else, like, I don't care about anybody else in the movie. And it's kind of takes away a little bit, because even the kids' stories is like hit and miss a little bit. Just the way they have like this crazy scene that this kid almost dies. And then the next scene, they're just like, let's go to the lake and have some fun. It was just like so disjointed or like, I don't know. I just felt whiplash of like the back and forth of dark to light moments that it just kind of, I don't know. It didn't always come together for me. I don't even know if I answered your question.
Well, because there's a moment where you're right. Eddie gets kind of possessed by Pennywise, or becomes like his minion almost, kills his dad, and then attacks the Losers Club and dies instantly. Like I would have expected if Pennywise would have taken control of him sooner, maybe, or had him under his thrall for longer. Like maybe if when he's carving the H into Ben's belly, that was under Pennywise's control, then maybe you'd understand a little bit more. Like, because that, you're right, that is above and beyond. Like, I got a little bit bullied, but I don't remember anybody anywhere in my town getting bullied like this. Like, not even close. No. What do you think of Eddie, Brian?
I didn't like his character. He was all over the place. He was way too aggressive, died way too fast, and it seemed like they wanted this antagonist on the side, and it was a little too over the top and kind of disjointed. Will's right. I had whiplash from going back and forth from these gruesome bullying things that go beyond bullying. And we're talking about like, felony offense, assault and stuff. Tries to kill Mike. And that's when, as soon as he like attempts to kill Mike, that's when it seems like, okay, we've accepted that he was trying to kill me, so it's okay to kill him, and immediately pushes him down the well and he dies. And it was just like no holding back on this. I just didn't like Eddie or anything that happened with Eddie. It didn't seem to add to the movie. It felt a little unpolished. It just didn't feel right to me.
So you
As
would have
far
just
as
left it as Pennywise being the only antagonist?
yeah, or just kind of smooth out that a little bit. Eddie just had so many rough edges and was too violent, too over the top. His cohorts that followed him around, they didn't even seem disturbed by it most of the time. And I was like, this is really disturbing the way he's acting and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they were just going for, was just trying to get as much disturbing stuff crammed into this film as they could. I didn't like the Eddie scenes. They didn't do anything for me. I didn't enjoy it. The other kids, I think half of the kids in this movie did a really good job, and I think the other half of the kids did a really bad job. I didn't like the character Ben. No, I should say I liked the character Ben. I didn't think the kid that played him did a good enough job portraying that. He stood out as completely different from the other kids. He didn't feel like a kid. He felt like an adult, you know? The way he acted and the way he spoke, the way he talked, he felt like a 25-year-old kid to me. It just didn't fit very well for me. I absolutely loved, I think it was Richie and Stan that constantly had the back and forth bickering. Loved those two characters. Thought they were great. Bill was okay. The problem with him stuttering so strongly in the beginning of the movie was that it was irritating to watch for me. And I know that's what they were going for, but I wish they would have toned that down just a smidge, made it a little bit more bearable for me. They didn't need to kind of cram that stutter so harshly in my face right in the beginning of the film for me to get that people are going to make fun of him, you know, for it. That would have been fine. And then by the end, it kind of like mysteriously just goes away. Like throughout the movie, it tapers off. It really does. And then by the end, he just doesn't even stutter anymore. Okay. I wouldn't say that was a Jaden Martell played Bill. I wouldn't say that he did a bad job. Just didn't really like the writing that they gave the kid to portray. I really thought that Sophia Lillis, Beverly Marsh, the character Beverly, stole the show. She was fantastic in this movie. Thought she did an incredible job. Her sequences with her dad were some of the most terrifying sequences. And I've heard that is a fraction of what was in the novels. So I think I thought that was pretty cool. So ups and downs for the kids acting. As far as Eddie is concerned, I could have just done without him. Just give me a cliche bully. Let's just find out how that plays out. We don't need to go so over the top, carving our name in the kid's stomach and then just trying to kill people, stabbing your dad in the neck with I don't know. It was just too much.
Yeah. I'm actually going to disagree pretty hard with you on this one. I thought Jeremy Ray Taylor, who plays Ben, did a pretty great job.
Yeah.
He is supposed to be like the outcast of the outcasts. Like he's kind of the new one to town. He doesn't know anybody. He's got no friends. And like he's spending his summer vacation in a library reading on the history of Derry for no reason. Like that's what
he's got nothing better to do. Yeah.
Right. Like, so it kind of makes sense that he would have a better vocabulary and be a little bit better spoken than the other kids who were talking about like effing their moms and whatnot. And the one kid who I didn't like is the one you said you did, is Stanley. He's the one that felt really out of place, even though he was part of the group. He's not one of the two that was constantly bickering at each other. He seemed like the one kid that was just there all the time.
Yeah, he was kind of the extra of the group. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting who was the one that Richie was constantly...
and Eddie. I think those were
Richie and Eddie.
Talking about. Yeah. So Eddie's the one who had the cast, I believe. And his mom was like super hard on him.
Yeah.
So him and Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, those two were going at each other constantly. I thought they did a great job.
Those two were my favorite. You're right. Stanley was an extra in the film. He felt a little weird. And I think we showcased him. They all go into the house and he stands outside. Like he's extra scared. Right. So I think we're going to see some scared character flaws in his older self in the next one. I think they're setting some stuff up there, if I remember right. I can't remember. I've seen the movie in a long time.
I can't remember which one I'm talking about, but I think it's Stanley.
Yeah, I think it's Stanley.
Right. Yeah.
No, Richie and Eddie were amazing. I thought they were just hilarious to watch. And of course, Finn Wolfhard is a fantastic child actor. I think he's great. I love him in Stranger Things.
I think this is the perfect time to announce that Finn Wolfhard is a Canadian actor born in
Go ahead, give him the screen.
And not only that is this movie, majority of it was filmed in Toronto, Ontario.
Oh, really?
So big shout out to Canada here Well played, Canada. Well played. You have the standout character for Run 7. We love that. We love that.
I mean, technically, I think he said Sophia Lillis was the standout character, but
Okay,
we'll take it in
whatever.
Canada anyways.
Yeah, I like Wolfhard. He's great. I don't care. It doesn't matter that he's from Canada. That's fine with me. I don't want to like bag on child actors. I have learned that there are great child actors in there. We've dealt with my issues with child actors. I just felt like Jeremy Ray Taylor could have done a better job with some of the subtleties of that character who is supposed to stand out and have that dynamic with Bill and Beverly, that trio thing. Yeah. Not bad, just not good enough for that character, because that character is an important character in this story and has a lot of depth and a lot of interesting stuff. And I just didn't think that he quite pulled it off well enough for me.
I don't have anything. I can't disagree with you there. I think a lot of the actors they cast, the kids in this are great, and some are better written than others, so they stand out more. And that also means that some are not as well written, which is why what's his name, Stewart or whatever, the actor could have been great, but his role in the movie was so small that you're just like, why are you here?
We didn't even see what Stanley's issues were, really, right? Like,
yeah, we don't even know his name. Is it Stanley? Stewart?
It's Stanley, and the other one was Mike. Was the other one that I'm just like, why are you here? Like, he just kind of joins the group and is instantly best friends with everybody. And you're like, we didn't see anything leading up to that.
Mike there for the gun.
He's there for the gun.
Yeah,
he couldn't pull the trigger on the sheep. We needed to introduce the weapon into the movie. That's all that was there for. Stanley didn't even have a thing. And then we had Henry Bowers, the bully, who was carving his name and just really weird. I actually thought that Henry Bowers, I guess it's Nicholas Hamilton, played Henry Bowers. I actually thought he did a good job playing that character. I just thought the character was really poorly written.
It's really hard to take that many pages, that much storyline, and cram it down into 2 hours. I mean, granted, it's a 2-part book, so there's going to be more. And I do believe we do see more of their childhood in the next one, although it does focus mostly on them being adults. I don't remember the book 100% by any stretch of the imagination. I feel like he was way more drawn out, much bigger threat. You get a lot more of him. And in this one, I'm kind of, you're talking me into it. I'm kind of thinking like, maybe you just take him out entirely and focus more time on, like, maybe you take Mike, maybe you change the story quite drastically. Take Henry out of it entirely. And just, Mike has always been their friend. He's just got a summer job, so he can't hang out with them as much. But then you don't have to worry about a way to introduce him. You can kind of just get from, like, if the point is these kids and their relationship with each other and their relationship with Pennywise and, like, the world, let's just do that.
And then you could make some more backstory for Stanley, some scary scenes from him that incorporate with issues that he's dealing with.
Yeah, I think the Henry character's catalyst is he bullies all of these kids. So they all come together because of him, kind of, right? They all have their own issues, but those alone don't make this losers club come together, whereas Henry does. Henry was bullying Bill, so they save Ben. Henry was bullying Mike, so they save Mike. He comes in. Henry was constantly making fun of Bev and how she's a tramp and sleeps around and all this. So Bev's in. Like, he really solidifies the losers club because he's that one thing. Now, them having all their other issues is another reason why Pennywise plays on their fears, but it just, as you guys are saying, it becomes a lot, and there's so much crammed into this movie that it's so much easier to put on a page or 1,500 pages, right? So it's a tough task. I think they did okay, but it's a tough juggling act, if I can put it into a clown pun.
I will say, I'm nitpicking this because we have an hour-long show where we're going to discuss it.
Sure.
If I'm just watching this, like the first time I watched this as just a viewer, as a fan, having not read the book, not thinking about it critically, I remember really liking this movie. Like,
that's exactly how I felt when I first watched it.
That's what we do here. But like, I don't really have that many big issues with this film. I guess spoilers for when we actually rate it, but like, this movie works pretty well for me. We're discussing the things that maybe you could tweak it a little bit here or there or get each other's thoughts on it. But overall, I think I'm a fan. Now, I do want to go back a second to something you were talking about earlier, Will, which is the whiplash between the really happy moments and the really sad moments. One, the really happy moments made me really want to go and watch something like Stand By Me, like which is essentially this movie without the alien clown.
Exactly.
So like I liked those moments where they're like just hanging out at the quarry and you're just seeing them having a good time. But I also do think to some extent those moments are kind of necessary to the story because the rest of their life is so horrendous. The school seems to be pretty bad. Their bullying seems pretty bad. Their home life seems pretty bad. None of these kids seem to have a happy home. You got to assume like Bill's parents are probably on the verge of divorce, having lost Georgie. Ben has no friends whatsoever. Beverly is almost definitely getting sexually assaulted at home. We don't really know much about Richie. Mike is getting, I think is an orphan, I believe. Like I think he's living with his uncle.
Yeah.
So like all of them are in really, really tough situations. So having that like the happy moments is what gives them hope. And you kind of need hope for the fear to really take sense. Like if everything about their life was completely miserable, whatever, just kill me, clown. Like I
just felt they were trying to create contrast.
Yeah.
But it was not perfectly executed. Again, not bad, not perfectly executed though, because it felt a bit disjointed how they would go from something that was so horrendous, like having the H cut into your belly, and it felt like the very next scene, he's just like, yeah, I'm good, let's go hang out, and we're going to go jump off the cliff at the canyons or whatever. And I was like, dude, you need to go to the hospital. That guy, like, there's some stitches that you need in there.
Well, isn't it like literally he's running away from them into the sewer with the gray water? And I'm just like, oh, dude, no, you stay outside.
I totally agree with you, Dan, that they are absolutely necessary pieces to the movie. And again, I think it just comes back to there's so much they're trying to put into this movie that it's overwhelming. And so they had to make these hard cuts and it's jarring. And maybe they wanted it to be jarring. I'm not sure. It just didn't work for me 100% of the time. But maybe it worked better for other people. And who knows, right? It obviously did okay because it was like one of the highest grossing R-rated movies, since Deadpool took over it or whatever, right?
I think Joker, but yeah, it was like what? It had a shockingly small budget when I was looking it up. It was only like $35 million or something. Which also maybe in 2017 was a lot, but in 2025, $35 million is almost laughable.
Yeah.
And it made like $750 million. Like it did really well.
Which is fantastic because I felt that the special effects, which were not too many practical effects, there was a clown in costume, costume, makeup, all that. But we had a lot of special effects to make Pennywise look that much more creepy, the way he walked, the way he would come out of a wall, the way he would change, his mouth would grow, all those different sequences. And I thought they looked incredible. When they are in the garage and they're watching the slideshow that turns into a movie, that turns into him coming out of the wall and chasing them. I remember the first time I saw that, I climbed up onto the top of my couch because I was so scared at this and I knew it was coming. Like it's not a jump scare. It just progresses rapidly and he comes out of the screen at you and it looks so scary. I remember climbing up onto the back of my couch to get away from my own TV. And then the second time I view it, I'm like, oh, I wonder how creepy this looks. It probably looks pretty terrible. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty terrifying. I mean, I didn't jump out of my skin because I knew it was coming, but it just still looked great. It looked really good. And for it being 35 million or something like that, I'm impressed.
I mean, there's definitely something going on in Hollywood where CGI seems to be getting worse and worse, but that's a conversation for a different time. But yeah, I think 35 million in 2017, I think they did a great job. And honestly, like most of these kids, like with the exception of Finn Wolfhard, who I think Stranger Things season 1 had just come out at this point, like none of them were really stars at the time. So I'm sure they got a bunch of the actors on for pretty cheap.
Oh yeah. I mean, not so much probably for the chapter 2, but
no, probably significantly less. So there's some pretty good adult stars in that one, if I remember correctly. But
I'm going to counter a little bit on Brian's there. I felt the CGI was hit and miss in this movie. There was some really great stuff with Pennywise throughout, but there was also some like just odd choice CGI as well. Like even the running water and the boat at the beginning, half the time I was like, that's so CGI. It doesn't move right. The water doesn't look right. If you watch Georgie's hands, they're floating above the water at the sewer. I'm just like, there's so many weird CGI inputs that could have just been real, and it stood out to me a lot in this movie. And I don't know why I clocked so many of them, but there was some CGI that was really, really good, and some that just felt super off to me. And I don't know what they were thinking in some of those cases.
I didn't notice the boat at the beginning of the water.
Say, I want to go back and watch the
Yeah, I'll have to go back and take a look. I didn't catch that at all.
Even half of the balloons in here just looked so CGI to me.
Well, like there's one
crazy
where I believe it's Eddie turns around and Pennywise is standing in front of that house, and Eddie's got the gate to his back, and Pennywise has that triangle of balloons that are perfectly symmetrical. Mm-hmm. Which was creepy, and I don't know why they did it. I guess because it was creepy.
Creepy, yeah.
Yeah, but it was creepy, and it worked. I liked it. So it was obviously fake, and they wanted it to be, and I knew they had to do that with CGI. So I liked that, and I don't know. It just the balloon floating through the library was one that was like, that looks dumb. I remember that one. I was like, that's a fake balloon right there. That was the only time I remember seeing that, though.
It's funny because that would be so easy to do for real.
Yeah.
Right? Like
just
that would not be a hard
helium
thing.
Or whatever, weight it or whatever, and get a fan and blow it through the room.
Right.
You'd be fine.
A
couple of takes, you'll get it.
Yeah.
I always choose real over CGI, especially if the CGI isn't just top marks, which is rare nowadays, as we mentioned. But I don't know. Some things did stand out to me. But again, other things look great. Like it just, I don't know why it was so hit and miss on me. But
when they use CGI on Pennywise, and they get those great camera angles where they're underneath him and he's looming up over them and he's mutating into something. His arms are growing, his teeth are coming out, or he's just getting bigger. Those were great uses because the camera angles disjoint everything in the first place. Things are kind of moving rapidly, but not in a shaky cam kind of way. And I thought it just looked great. When they use the CGI to make a balloon float across the room and it's going really slowly and you can all tell that is not a real balloon, it didn't look right. I thought maybe they were just trying to go for, we're going to make this balloon look creepy the way they kind of make Pennywise look creepy when he's walking or moving. I don't know. But I'm with you. When you can use practical effects, I want to see practical effects. This movie called for CGI because of the way Skarsgård was decorated and the way he moved and came out of walls and changed.
I wonder if, and I'm making this up as I go, for something like because it'd be so simple to have that balloon just like float across the room. I wonder if they couldn't quite make it look right with like the string. Like if they turned the fan on, the string would move a bit too much, or if there's somebody was holding it, it'd be a bit too down, and they just wanted it to have a very ethereal look to it that they just couldn't quite make work in the real world.
They could have just
or the very beginning scene with Georgie. Like I wonder if they didn't want to put a 4-year-old in the same room as Bill Skarsgård dressed up as a clown, and they're just like, no, we're gonna film these separately and then like put it together.
No, that being said, I read articles and interviews that the director purposely kept Bill out of the room until filming so that the kids would be scared of him.
Well, Bill, sure, he's like 13, but George.
No, sorry, Bill.
No,
sorry,
Bill Skarsgård.
I mean Bill Skarsgård. Sorry, Pennywise.
Okay.
The actor.
Yeah, no, I knew they did that with the older kids. I wasn't sure about the younger one.
Yeah, all of them. But Georgie was one of the youngest. Actually, said he was totally cool with him and it was fine. Okay. And the actor Bill Skarsgård went out of his way to be like overly nice to these kids to hopefully not,
traumatize them.
He also like regrets a little bit that the director did that because he heard how everybody was having so much fun on set and he couldn't be a part of it because he had to be sanctioned off away from the kids. So it was kind of like a hit and miss there for him. But
I've heard about that with a couple of different movies where they try and keep like the serial killer or whatever in a separate room so that the reactions are more genuine. I was just reading something a little while ago where I believe it was Nicholas Hamilton, like the Henry Bowers character. Pennywise gets right into his face and screams at him, and he's like full on tears, like he's just like freaking out. And like to the point where Bill Skarsgård like went to apologize to him after the scene, like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know how intense that was going to be, and like with tears in his face, like, oh, did you, like, just totally professional, like, yeah, no, that was fine, like, we're good. And like, so Bill Skarsgård even was just like praising these kids, like they did a great job. I might have the wrong, might not have been Henry Bowers, might have been one of the younger ones. But
I always enjoy these behind the scene tidbits. I love when like method acting goes awry. I love the stories of what actors and directors do to try and get the most out of a situation. I think that creativity and spontaneity working with reality to try and capture it on film is just amazing, and it makes for great stories. I think that's why I like watching documentaries of things like how the movie Ghostbusters was filmed and made, and all the things that went wrong to make a movie go right and stuff like that. I'm currently in the middle of the documentary of Pennywise the Clown because I found this material so interesting and I wanted to know more about it and every variation of Pennywise and where it came from the novels and all that stuff. Super interesting stuff. And I get to come here every week and talk about it with you guys.
Oh,
you're welcome.
When you said the documentary Pennywise the Clown, I was like, wait, is there a real clown called Pennywise? Like, is this based off of something?
It's the documentary of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things we do see a little bit in this movie, we're going to see it more in the next one, and you definitely touch on it in the book, is how the generational trauma works. Because even with Pennywise, he goes away and comes back every 27 years. So it's kind of affecting the kids, and then the kids become adults and they affect the kids, and it kind of goes that way. But even with like the bully with Henry Bowers, clearly he is getting bullied by his police officer father, and that's continuing down the path. We're going to see other situations with, I believe, Beverly, where she's being sexually assaulted by her father, and then when she grows up, does not have a great relationship with her husband. I can't remember if that's in the movie per se, but it is definitely a big chunk of the book. And so I think you touched on this a while ago, like, why do we even have those things? Like, why is the father in this? That is kind of the point, is like the generational trauma between not only how Pennywise affects kids in the town, but also just like how parents affect their kids and how their kids grow up to affect their kids and whatnot. So it's not super well explained in this movie yet, but I think once you see both movies, you get the full picture. It is a little bit better shown off. But again, it's one of those things where like, it's hard to take that out of 1,500 pages into even 4 hours and make it make perfect sense. But it is something that I like that they touched on, at least.
Yeah, so that kind of bleeds into my question for you and Brian, is because Brian has seen the TV series and you read the book and seen the TV series, is the TV series and the book go back and forth in time from the present adults to the children when they experienced Pennywise for the first time throughout. And did you miss that in this movie, or did you not notice it as much? Like, they did a good job of just one-siding that coin?
I don't remember the TV show well enough. I know for a fact I've seen it. I might have even seen it twice. I don't remember it well enough to say I don't remember it well enough to say whether that happened or not. I kind of want to say the book does it kind of like the movie has done so far. Like, when they are children, they are just children. But then once they age up to adults, they're adults who are also remembering their childhood. Because I think a big chunk of the next section or the next movie is going to be that they have forgotten not only about Pennywise, but also about each other, and mostly about Derry. Like, most of the kids have moved on and like completely forgot about everything that happened.
Right.
I mean, in like a trauma way, not in like in just like a memory fades naturally way.
No, 100%. It's like it's a mental.
Yeah, they buried it.
So actually,
the original TV series was intentionally supposed to be 8 to 10 episodes long, but they felt it was so scary they wouldn't be able to get away with doing it that many episodes. They thought they'd get canceled before it was over because people would be too scared from it. And they thought that they could maybe shore up some of that by the condensing it even further. But therein lies the problem. Like we've said, a gajillion pages condensed down to 4 hours of television show plus commercials. That's tough to do. I liked the original, how they went back and forth, and you could draw lines from their childhood to their adult selves. I don't remember if they did it well enough. I remember thinking that some of these characters don't feel as in touch with their younger version. And so it showcased that flaw a little bit more going back and forth. but I did like that it was there and that you could see the parallels between the youth and the adult. And yes, they did traumatically forget what happened in Derry, except for Mike. Mike calls him back because it's there. He says, "You promised, we made a blood pact, etc. Let's do this." And so they end up coming back to it and start remembering, and the fear comes in and everything. And so that was interesting. I also like the take of, let's do them young, and then the next one's going to be them old, and draw a straight line, because it makes it a little bit easier narrative to follow. There's less, plot loops and things that you're trying to connect. And you can just kind of disassociate from the younger kids. And now we're on to the older ones, and we can talk about what happened, but focus on the older. It just simplifies it. Yeah. And I think with this much content, the simpler way is the better way to go. However, I do think the original TV series did a good enough job that I'm trying to say I like both for different reasons, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
If you like what we do and you want to help support us, head on over to our Patreon. There's a link down below. Huge shout out to the executive producers, Real Bubba Hotep and Dino. And of course, our head writer, Elder JM990, and the director, it's Hughes, it's Huss, it's Hugh, I don't know, it's him, for helping support the show and keeping the lights on and helping us choose our Patreon pick for next week.
I really like this film. I can't wait to watch the second one again. Like I've stated before, I like both the TV series that came out a long time ago, and I like this one. I think they're amazing, and for a variety of different reasons. And I think that everybody should go see both of them, because I think they have a lot to offer. I especially enjoyed the effects on this one. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch some of those opening sequences, because Will says that I missed some things, and I want to take a look at them. We didn't talk much about the sound in this one, but there was an aspect of the audio that I really loved, and they did it a couple of times in this film. It's this neat trick where somebody's running and they're looking over their shoulder, and it's something that's kind of weird that's kind of happening behind them, and then suddenly the sound cuts out, and they look back over their shoulder one more time, and it's Pennywise, and he's right in your face. And it's that sound that drops out that alerts you subconsciously that something's different this time, and then you look, and it's way different and scary, and it jumps out at you. And they do that little sound trick a couple of times. They also had the volume just right at the big moments, like the garage sequence. You hear the clicking of the slideshow as it speeds up, and that clicking, building pace, building tension, making things going faster and faster, and you get more excited, and then suddenly things are coming out of the wall and getting bigger. Really just a fantastic job with that. I had a ton of fun watching this film. I've gone back and forth with my scores with a few things, kind of adjusting for some stuff, but this one's landing at a 74 for me. I think it's great. A well-done film. There's definitely places that it could be picked up on, but we are talking about a lot of Stephen King content when he was still pretty high writing his stories, and they had to cram all that into the first half of this 2-part movie. So I think they did a great job with what they had, and I love it, and I think that everybody else should love it too. So that's me.
All right, I have to agree with Brian on pretty much everything. I think this movie looks absolutely incredible. They did a phenomenal job with basically every aspect of it. Some of the sound work was incredibly well, though I didn't pick up on the thing that Brian was talking about. The child actors unanimously, I think, did a great job. I think Stanley was given very little to do, unfortunately, but I think all the actors did a great job. I really liked watching the way they interact with each other, to the point where I almost wanted that more than the movie we got. Not that I have anything against the movie It, but I could have, honestly, the quarry scene and stuff like that, that could have been a movie, and I would have enjoyed it for very different reasons. The horror elements of this movie, as I mentioned at the very beginning, were less scary and more just deeply unsettling. Whether it's Pennywise the clown, or the adults, or the bully, or the father talking to his daughter, it didn't scare me in the same way that The Conjuring did, where I'm actually my skin is crawling. But it just, everything about this movie is just wrong in the right ways, if that makes any sense. It's so well made, but it's not necessarily one that I'm going back to every single Halloween. I thought it was really, really fun. I really liked aspects of it. It's interesting because having had read the book, I know certain things that aren't in this movie, and it kind of made me enjoy it a little bit less. Not that they did a poor job with the movie whatsoever, but there's just so much more you can do with the book. I'm not even saying the book is better. I think the movie is actually probably the better iteration of the story. There's just so much less of it because you can't take all the elements that you want to put into it. I'm kind of just rambling at this point. I gave this one an 81. I really like this movie. I think every element of it is done superbly. I think everybody's on top of their game. Visual effects, practical effects. Like, we didn't talk very much about like the haunted houses and stuff like that in this movie, but they all look phenomenal. The acting is incredible. Like, there's just nothing that I can really take away from this other than how deeply unsettled I feel watching it. Like, it is just not a fun watch in that sense, which I guess is what they're going for. So kudos to them.
All right.
Chat's keyed up for this one.
What? I mean, I agree with everything you guys said. The movie is well done. I mean, we didn't really talk about this either. The director, Andy Muschietti, however you say his name, really hadn't done a lot of directing prior to this that I saw. Hasn't really done a lot of directing since this that I've seen. So for a not super established director, I thought did a very good job handling this movie, because this movie is a lot. And I think at one point there was a different director in the books who wanted to do this, but never got around to it. I can't remember. Anyway, speaking of rambling, I do think the CGI was a little bit too much on this movie. I think they could have got away with a little more real effects. I always like the real effects. I will never get past that. I just won't. So some things did stand out to me. It wasn't breaking of any sorts of the word, but it did stand out a little bit to me. I did find the adults were scarier than Pennywise, which I don't know if that's what they were going for or not, but that's how it set. And maybe that will become more established in the next one. I'm not sure, but it does just feel like Pennywise had this grip on the whole town, and maybe that's the idea. We didn't even talk about the TV. Throughout the movie, the TV is playing, and it's always the same program on, no matter who's watching it, adults, kids, whoever. And it's like this weird children's show, and they're talking about killing people and going to the sewers. It's fun to play in the sewers. And at the one where Henry is about to kill his dad, they're like, do it, do it, do it. And you can actually see Pennywise in there. It just, throughout the movie, they do a good job of placing Pennywise in the scenes, even if he's not in the scenes, which is really cool. Some are like you want to look for because it's through the history books and the photos and the slideshow, which was a great scene. But sometimes it's just on a wall of graffiti, and then one scene he's not there, and another scene you look and he is there. And so the detail they put into that is quite great. And if you watch multiple times, you'll pick up on more of those as they go. The acting, the kids I thought did great overall. And that's really what I watched the movie for, was these kids. I felt the interactions with them were great. The dialogue between them was fun. Did the whole movie work? I don't know if it always came together. It's just a lot of content crammed into like 2 hours. And I felt the 2 hours because it was so much content. And so that's really what docked me the most on this, which would be the writing issue, which is going to always be a writing issue. It's a 1,500-page novel crammed into 2 parts of 2-hour movies. Overall, all that said, still a good movie, still very watchable, very fun. If you like it, if you like the character, if you like Stephen King, this is one of the better adaptations to movie, I feel, of Stephen King's work. 76 out of 100 for me. Would watch again. So
and
funny.
With that, we have our first ever second column of our rating. It comes in pretty high at a 77. It is only the first movie, of course. They usually do start off pretty high and then they kind of drop from there. But that does knock Highlander down onto the second page, as it were. Now, you kind of mentioned this a second ago, Will. Is this a franchise? Is it just 2 parts of the same book, the same movie? We're not really sure. We're counting it, though, so we can talk about it. So do you think this is going to drop all that hard? Because this is not the first one did well, let's make a sequel. This is there was always going to be 2. There was always going to be the end of the story. Do you think that they can keep this up and this will be pretty highly rated by us? Or do you think this will have a pretty nasty fall the way most sequels do?
I was going to ask you guys the same question, because I know we've all seen this movie prior to watching them now. And from my memory alone, I don't remember enjoying the chapter 2 as much as the first chapter. So I do believe it's going to take a little bit of a tumble, but I don't know how much. I don't know how much, because I do think they did a great job executing the first one, and I don't see them just completely, shat in the bed on the second. But we'll see. We'll see.
So my big takeaway from this one, if you were to explain one scene, it would be the scene we talked about with the in the garage with the slideshow. The only thing I really truly remember from the sequel is I remember thinking like, wow, they really nailed all the actors. Like, these actually look like those kids grown up.
Right.
That's
right.
it. Like, I don't really remember the story going in. I don't remember if I liked it or didn't. I remember the story because of the book, but I don't remember if I'm remembering the book or the movie. So I am very curious to watch this one.
It's also funny because on the press tour of the first movie, they asked the kid actors who they'd like for adult actors to play them in the sequel or the chapter 2. And I think 2 of the actors named actors that actually got cast in the roles, which is kind of nice. Fun. So
I wonder if they knew that ahead of time, or if it was just
what about you?
Fan casting.
Yeah, who knows? What about you, Run? What do you think?
I remember some scary sequences from the next movie. I remember some of those. I don't remember much else. So I don't remember if I liked it or not. I just know that there's some creepy scenes that I'm going to enjoy again. And I'm very much looking forward to watching the next part. I'm kind of sad that as it stands, we're not going to include Tim Curry's into this, even though it's the same movie, not a different, not a sequel or whatever. But we are going to be we do mention it in the juxtaposition between the two films and the differences and whatnot. So we're going to be talking about that. But I think this is probably going to drop down to Jurassic Park levels, but that's just going off of like IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes scores. Everybody has the sequel just a touch behind the original. So I think a lot of people originally went to see the first to see if it would be as scary as what they remembered from Tim Curry. And I think on the sequel, they probably didn't get as many return customers because people maybe liked one version better than the other and chose not to go back. But I don't know. I remember thinking that the whole thing's great and I wanted all 3 in my collection. So we'll see.
All right, that's our rating of It Chapter 1, but what's yours? We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. We record these live over at twitch.tv/The Mongoolie Show at 9 p.m. Eastern, so if you want to come hang out with us, you can go over there, hit the follow button, and hang out live. Or if you enjoyed this video, just hit like and subscribe so that we see you in the next one.